Welcome to the Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community, a space where justice meets action and community voices rise. Each episode, we bring you stories from the front lines, changemakers, disruptors, and everyday heroes who are building a more just, equitable, and liberated world. This is more than a podcast. It's a call to listen, learn, and move together. You were just listening to music from the incredibly talented Stephen Kong. You can find him on Spotify and Bandcamp. Today we have with us Mathias Lemos Castillo. Mathias is a seasoned consultant with extensive experience in diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives. As a strategic advisor, he has helped numerous organizations develop and implement comprehensive programs that drive meaningful change. His expertise spans across cultural competency training, workplace inclusion strategies, and community engagement. With a proven track record of bridging diverse communities and corporate environments, Mathias brings a unique perspective that blends practical business knowledge with deep cultural understanding. His consultancy work centers on building sustainable, inclusive workplace cultures where diversity drives success. Through his collaborative approach and results-driven methodology, Mathias has successfully guided organizations through complex cultural transformations, helping them foster more inclusive environments while achieving their business objectives. His commitment to empowering underrepresented communities and promoting equitable practices has made him a trusted messenger in both professional and community settings. Well, good morning. I'm really excited and grateful to have you here today. I think the work that you do is really important and, something that I'm really passionate about as well. And I'm excited to see how this conversation is going to go. How are you doing today?
Oh, great. It's the Friday before a long break, at least on my end, but hopefully for a lot of folks, they get to take off these next couple of weeks. So it's a good way to close out the year. And,
Yeah.
it's rainy here in Berkeley today, so can't complain. I like the
Okay,
rain.
okay, in the Berkeley. Actually, I'm gonna be headed up to the Bay Area just over this weekend, so that's cool. Actually, Berkeley
Uh,
specifically. I'd love to just hear more about you and your work. So you've spent years helping organizations navigate cultural transformation. So what originally called you to do this work around equity, inclusion, and community building?
oh, great question. Right off the bat, Denise. Um, for the audience, hello, my name is Mathias Lemos Castillo. My business is called Mobilize, Listen, and Connect. It is my initial MLC consulting.
Uh-huh.
And really, I think what it was years of doing diversity, equity, inclusion, and community activism, community engagement alone that brought me to doing this work for the last 5 years. So my business is turning five, which is an exciting milestone. And before that, I think about, 2015, 10 years ago now, my first job right out of college was doing diversity, equity, inclusion for a corporate setting. Very quickly I realized the corporate world was not my
Okay.
realm. It's very, you got to think within the box. And
Yeah.
I was an outside of the box thinker for a lot of projects, initiative, good work, all that to be. And I was doing work then with MIT in a nonprofit. So tried the nonprofit realm. That was a lot of fun on a national
Yeah.
scale. And it was really around how do we bring people together, which has always been at the center of my values, the way the work that I've done
Mhm.
within school, outside of school, and community. I was really engaged, and once that work kind of came in an end because of the COVID
Yeah.
pandemic, it was really hard to bring people together.
Mhm.
I spun out to do my business to really keep that that work going around. How do we engage community members? How do we put their
Yeah.
voices at the center of initiatives, and more importantly, underheard voices, that equity lens, right?
Yeah.
To be able to drive these initiatives. So, working with city municipalities, counties, states, right off the start, at the start of my business was really fun because, they're thinking about this in one way.
Mhm.
And as the third or the crazy third party
Yeah.
consultant, as I say,
Yeah.
you're able to bring in a different walk, or different methodologies, different ways to essentially do the work that they're trying to do, and how do you merge that together and find that middle ground?
Yeah.
Um, those are some of the questions I really um, pondered a lot in my first couple of years, and from there really just evolved. But really, ultimately, my why for doing this work is my love for community members, my love for community in general, and I'm originally from Uruguay, Denise, so grew up in South America, moved to Wisconsin in 2003, 22 years ago. Lived there for the majority of my life, and now in California. Um, it was always my direct family was, really small. And
Mm-hmm.
how do we find that family outside of that direct family? And it's always through community. So building these connections with people, getting to know one another,
Yeah.
having dinner and going to community center is always at the center of me growing up. Just because my parents were really this is really important, and we had that in Uruguay. I
Yeah.
had my tios, my tias, my cousins were all there. We were really close, and you also had that sense of that broader community because we would all take care of each other.
Yeah.
If you need bread, if you needed milk, sugar, or whatever it was, you had that. And moving to a new country as an immigrant is really
Mm-hmm.
interesting because you lose that connection
Right.
to the community. So you kind of have to rebuild this. All my life has always been, how do I rebuild connections and build connections with people and
Absolutely.
carry that as I do this work because it is truly who you know and how you build those connections. And moving at the speed of trust is always at the center, right? It's not something that's
Yeah.
going to happen overnight, but it's great if it happens. And if not, you just be very diligent and continue to build those bridges. And I think those are things that I've noticed, the corporate realm, the government, and even the nonprofits sometimes get overlooked. And it's that,
Yeah.
we want to move really fast because we want to get results. And the way that I approach it is how do we move just fast enough, right, at the right tone that we can also make sure that the people that we're working with can keep up and don't feel left out. Because a lot of time it can be, very extractive when you're working with community members. And for me, it
Mm-hmm.
was how do we make it reciprocal so folks can feel like they're actually being heard and
Yeah.
are part of this process because they
Yeah.
should be. Uh, so yeah, that's a little bit of my why.
That's beautiful. No, thank you for sharing that. And I know you talked about this a little bit, but I'm also curious to know more about this. So for myself, I've worked in the nonprofit sector. I would say like close to like 20 years even. But like, I've been just like, I don't know, you probably know, but it's just understaffed, under-resourced sometimes and just like burnout. And I've talked to other people who've also like experienced burnout in nonprofit work as well. So I've been thinking about maybe even transitioning to like the corporate world, doing corporate responsibility, corporate social responsibility. But yeah, what are the like differences that you notice between working with communities through nonprofits versus working with community through the corporate world? Yeah, I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I see the corporate world as, they sell a product, right?
Hmm.
And the nonprofit sells a service. So both business models are
Yeah, totally.
great and work. And something that I've seen in a number of cases with people I worked is, with the corporate world, you do have the lucrative, we might have a little bit more to spend. So you can have these great
Okay.
big events, gala. The funding is not an issue. Oftentimes, some
Hmm.
places are like, actually, we're going to be very conservative and they don't put as much funding into
Yeah.
these efforts, especially now in the age of, 2025 and DEI being attacked.
Yeah. Yeah.
The contrast is the nonprofit world, you don't have that lucrativeness. You have, very limited funds. You're really trying to make the best out of
Hmm.
what you have currently and who can you partner with. So with the burnout, it's really easy sometimes in both realms, but I think with the
Okay.
nonprofit, you see it a lot that folks burn out just because they don't have that resource. And what I'd like to work with companies and organizations is how do we expand the way that we bring in resources and think creatively around,
Okay.
how can we collaborate with partners? How can we collaborate with individuals in the communities that are very active? The CEO, I think their
Yeah.
main role is to be able to promote and engage
Mhm.
individuals, and everyone else is really able to support the CEO in that mission, building the blocks for the organization. So yeah, that funding piece is the biggest one that I see, and
Mhm.
it's not hard to overcome. I think again, this is why it's important to do that engagement, the building the bridges, because then you can collaborate, right? And I
Yeah.
think that's the word that I've been carrying the most in 2025 and going to continue into
Okay.
2026 is that collaboration really helps the nonprofit realm, and
Yeah.
it helps the corporate realm too, because you see these corporations working together
Mhm.
to do these initiatives. So how can you, then the question for me is how do you partner the corporations and the nonprofits to really be
Yeah.
able to find that synergy? And not
Yeah.
everybody is going to be matched. Is a piece that I always, want to give a heads up and kind of nod to the nonprofit realm, because you also want to make sure it's intentional. It's not just, coming from I ran a nonprofit for 7 years
Oh,
at
cool.
one point of my life, and it's like, this there's some corporates that just want to do it to check a box. That's
Mhm.
fine. And there's some that want to lean into the intentionality. And something that I really leaned into was how do we lean into the more intentional partners so
Yeah.
the work can continue and you're actually creating that impact. Nothing wrong with the other side, I
Mhm.
guess, especially given the 2025 and tight budgets. It's good for
Yeah.
folks to find the partners that can also provide the funds, and it's not an issue. Just make sure that that give take is always a win-win. It's really something that I always look for, and
Yeah.
encourage both the nonprofit and the corporate world. Find, you know, four things when you're collaborating, right? Is it a win-win?
Mhm.
You gotta find the right people. Are you building community? And are people really excited? And if you're feeding,
Yeah.
kind of falling, if you're doing those four things, you're really are moving beyond just checking the box and doing some one hit wonders, really, right? Because
Yeah.
then everybody's winning. The right people are on the table. You're having a good time, and
Mhm.
then what's the last one? You're building that community. That's really important, especially now, because both the corporate and the nonprofit really depend on that community.
Mhm.
And you don't just do it alone. You need, the people internally, the people
Yeah.
externally to be buying in and having, a say in the process or be engaged in some sort of way. And sometimes
Yeah.
the organizations themselves can do that, but a consultant or a facilitator, a third party, can help you bridge those gaps,
Yeah.
especially if you're engaging audiences that you might not have engaged in the past. You're
Yeah.
trying to take a leap into a new realm. It's good to have someone that can help you guide you through that process and guide the people that you're working with to understand why this benefits them and why they should buy into whatever initiative or
Yeah.
program you're trying to put forth. And I've seen it in a lot. I do this work in various different states, and it's really interesting
Mhm.
because it's not just that product is the cookie cutter sort
Uh-huh.
of method that is going to fit everybody. Is how you mold it and shape it so it's an actual fit, and you're not trying to
Yeah.
fit people into something that doesn't really quite benefit them, but actually they feel part of and included.
Yeah, I really love that. Thank you for saying that. And so myself in this like current like political climate and just like how we are, I think as a country, like I've been really disappointed and really like frustrated with like dismantling of DEI. So do you find like it's been impacting your work, just like this rhetoric that's been going on right now?
A little bit more now than
Okay.
a couple months ago, and not
Hmm.
too heavily. I know there's some corporates or some organizations I've been engaging with that
Yeah.
they've been getting censored. I think with the fact that I've been working with small government primarily is different because they have a little bit more autonomy and a little bit more control
Okay.
around how they're saying things, statements that go out, and how the work is done, which is great.
Hmm.
Don't know what the prediction for 2026 might be. A lot of these,
Yeah.
small governments do depend on the federal funding, and if the federal funding is saying, you're not allowed to use these words,
Yeah.
I try to look at opportunities where problems arise. So how do we look at the opportunities here? If this is really being centered. And in a way, it's actually kind of working towards the equity because then you're really truly focusing on what are the inequities that are really in place right now and how do we dismantle them
Yeah.
completely, which is great, especially working from a government. The hard part of being the consultant is then it's really hard work and how do I
Mhm.
find the right people that help me kind of navigate this in the right way. So for me right now in real time, there's been some of my work contracts where I had certain words or phrases you can't use. I
Okay.
can't use, especially in reporting out or
Well,
being mindful around like how equity is really centered. And I like to bring value, so that's the flip on it. If you're having a hard time, especially for diversity, equity, inclusion practitioners right now,
mhm.
those three words tend to trigger people in a way.
Yeah.
So I flip it into what are values
No, that's
that can
cool.
actually bring us together and try to find that commonality between all of us, and it changes the conversation.
Yeah.
The other piece that I would bring up too is moving away from opinions to
Hmm.
experiences.
Yeah.
And the experience is really truly powerful because it's something that, you and I went through, or it's this person that we're engaging went through. And how do we center that over an opinion that,
Yeah.
someone might have read on Twitter or social media of some sort and
Yeah.
can actually resonate or has had that firsthand experience because
Yeah.
then, you know, a lot of what you see in public discourse is opinionated and, it's like,
Hmm.
that's great. And can you tell me an experience that you had that kind of goes along that way? And that
Yeah.
follow-up question is really powerful because people can tend to say, oftentimes, no, actually, I read it somewhere. It's like, great, well, let me show
Yeah.
you an experience that someone went through that's impacting them in terms of, healthcare, for example, is a big one.
Hmm.
And try to change that narrative so it moves more into what are people actually going through over what's being
Yeah.
said
No, I love
might
that
not
you
be
do that
factually.
too. I love how you frame it that way because I agree with you too. I feel like people get so angry about like the words diversity, equity, and inclusion without really understanding it. And by you, because I think if people actually understood it, like not a lot of people would actually be against what it stands for, what DEI stands for. And it reminds me, I think I was watching this one clip where this person was going around asking people, what do you think about DEI? And they're like, oh, it's horrible. This is something we should definitely, get rid of. And he was like, okay, well, what does it stand for? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I think it's just like going with the bandwagon, like DEI is horrible and, I should be against it without really understanding even like what the like letters actually stand for.
I
So,
agree. And I've been very intentionally and purposeful of saying diversity, equity, inclusion rather than
that's
DI,
good.
because if you're
Okay.
clumbing the term, it loses its
Right.
power. I think the three of those words are very powerful. And then to your point, then it's just like, then you're saying, so do you not agree with the diversity? Do you not agree with the
No, that's
inclusion? Is it
true.
the
That's
equity?
true.
Which piece is it? And try to have,
Hmm.
I ask a lot of questions, just curious by nature, and try to understand where is it that is the friction.
That's
And
cool.
oftentimes you find that if you're asking enough question and the right question, people are like, oh, I didn't think about it that way. I say, well,
Yeah.
totally fine, no shame. It's more of
Hmm.
the how do we keep educating ourselves, and that's the other piece, right? It's that continuous learning.
Yeah,
I wish
totally.
more and more was part of embedded into the society as a whole.
Yeah.
That way, folks can continue to be informed, continue to be growing, and spot when they're being misinformed, right? Because
Yeah.
DEI is actually something that benefits all of us.
I think
And
so
even,
too. Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
even if you're not personally benefited now in the present, who
Hmm.
knows in the future, right? If you might benefit from it or might need that,
Yeah.
right? And I think a lot about like ADA accessibility is an easy one because right now, folks, you can have, you might be able to walk on your two
Hmm.
legs and great. You can go up
Right.
the stairs, you can go down the stairs, you can run, but what if you get in an accident and you're not able to utilize your
Yeah.
legs in the same way as you did, right? And now you're dependent of a wheelchair.
Right.
And you're gonna need ramps, you're gonna need elevators, you're gonna need all
Mhm.
these infrastructure, right? And centering diversity, equity, inclusion allows for that infrastructure to be implemented in the first place rather than an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't have to worry about how your life is impacted. And this is a story from someone that I actually engaged with years ago, and I carry it really closely because they realized that it was because this was important to their corporation. It was something that was talked about, and even
Mm-hmm.
like people don't even think about this, Denise, like how wide your hallways are in an office
Mm-hmm.
setting.
Yeah.
It matters because then
Mm-hmm.
someone with a wheelchair can stroll up and down the hallways easily and not having to wait or feel anxious if their chair might be too wide and they can't get through, right? So it's
Yeah.
thinking of it's the little things too that I think get forgotten and
Yeah.
it's just clumped all together. So how do we expand it because it's very complex and lean into that
Yeah.
complexity? And I say the words, diversity, equity, and inclusion
I love that.
because they're all different.
Yeah, no, thank you for sharing this. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So, when you think about justice in action, how does it show up in the consulting and advisory work that you do today?
Mm. For me, it's a lot around how do we amplify the underheard voices,
I love that.
especially in public, civic and public engagement, which is really important. I think it's easy for government to say, hey, we're going to put together an open house. We want you
Hmm.
guys to come and give us your feedback on Project X. Join us.
Yeah.
That's the that's the inclusion part, right? The
Hmm.
equity in the work for me is all right, the nuance is that, more and more government are paying attention to, and it's great. And how do we improve upon,
Yeah.
language interpretation is an easy one. Do you have language access to different languages during the meeting that allow for someone to be able to hear it in a language they feel comfortable, whether
Hmm.
it's Spanish, Hmong, Chinese, any other languages that are really big right now in the United States, because it's not just
Yeah.
English and leaning into that. So, how do we make sure that folks can be part of this and included? The other
Hmm.
piece that we lean a lot is that trusted messenger. And I think as a consultant,
Okay.
you can lean in it. I don't necessarily call myself the trusted messenger. I use the bridges that I build to be able to reach the trusted messenger and be able to bring these initiatives from, just the city and the the regular set of players that play it to
Right.
the external, folks that might not be able to engage, whether it's because, I'm too busy, I'm working, or this is not of interest to me, and make them feel like this is actually impacting your life. Or
Hmm.
let them know that this is impacting their life and how they can play a role. So
Okay.
trust the messengers, church leaders, for people in the community, nonprofit CEOs, folks that are very active and have a following within their close community and working with them to say, hey, can we make sure that we can talk about, safe routes
Hmm.
to schools or the street redevelopment or, the zoning changes so folks understand how these changes are being implemented in real time, how they can be informed and what questions they might have, right? And create that transparency. Truly a value that's important to me here, the transparency. And as a
Yeah.
consultant, it's really important to be able to navigate it and work with the people that are able to reach wider audiences and oftentimes are not able to, are not part of these conversations that the city or government are having, or even corporate or nonprofit realm, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of conversations and the way that I frame it is always you got that internal,
Hmm.
right? The close knit group of people that are always for it, and then that external. And how do you engage both? So you're
Yeah.
not just solely, engaging with the internal, the people that really are here, are present, they can show up, they might be able to tune in because, they're not working past six.
Hmm.
And that's not the reality for everybody too, right? There's folks that work two jobs. So how do we use
Right.
other mediums like, here, Zoom, for example,
Yeah.
that allow for people to come in naturally, share their voice, share their experiences, right? Not their opinions, and be able to drive the change together and not feel like they're left out. So their voices actually mean an impact and be able to provide, fill in any gaps that the city or county or state might not be able to see on
Yeah.
things that are implemented, initiatives or projects that they're going to work out in, making it truly inclusive. That way, you can say the voices of the community is
Hmm.
what's really centering this initiative that's going to impact the community itself, whether it's,
Yeah.
street redevelopment, building, housing, all that sort of fun stuff. And I think I encourage the, folks in the city level, at the state, at the county, at the state, to really see how are they centering
Mm.
community input and how can they do it better. And I think as a consultant, really,
Yeah.
consultants can help you reach those audiences, and multiple, it doesn't have to be one, right? Like, I think
Yeah.
depending on the project, you might have a different consultant that can help you and, tailor that need. And that's really important too for the city to build those connections too, because they have a set of connection and
Yeah.
ideas.
No, thank you for sharing that. I'd love to further explore that with you. So, how can organizations move beyond performative DI work and build cultures where people actually feel seen, valued, and understood? Because I think it's one thing to just like say like, oh, okay, this is I'm implementing this or that, but like, how can they really like embrace this diversity that their employees might bring?
Yeah, great question, Denise. I lean in into the L in MLC, which is the
Mhm.
listen and
Okay.
truly listen.
Uh-huh.
It's not just hearing. I know a lot of companies like to hear, like, we want to hear what you think about this. But really take the time to have a conversation with people. I think
Hmm.
learn what is really working, what's not working,
Mm.
what things can change. Really simple set of questions, but really listen to what folks are saying to you and how can you implement them, and take it a step farther. How can they help you implement these changes? So it doesn't
Yeah.
feel like, we threw a Cinco de Mayo party for the Latino
Hmm.
ERG, excuse me.
Yeah.
But really be culturally responsive and say, actually, we helped communities and we help Latina folks in the community be able to apply for
Yeah.
jobs or do resumes, building, or do these workshops that really help because we listen to, what are some of the struggles or barriers to
Hmm.
accessing the job, right? So really thinking, I think if we're really going to move forward in an inclusive environment in 2026, it's thinking outside the box, thinking creatively, and
Yeah.
truly listening to each other, because the people that are already within your ecosystem might have had experiences that you might not
Hmm.
have had. And how do we listen to those experiences, those barriers, the
Yeah.
pain points, I call them,
Yeah.
so we can ease them, address them, and make sure that we're not perpetrating those cycles moving forward.
Yeah.
Listening intelligence is really important for me, and it's something that I think has helped me for many years be able to understand really the nuances of community work, and people, because I think people are very different. And
Mhm.
coming from South America, what I noticed is Spanish dialect is very different in every country, so you really have to listen
Okay.
very carefully. And a word might mean one thing to one person that it means
Mhm.
different to someone else, and that's the same when you're doing the community work, right?
Yeah.
There's a lot of nuances in the way that people speak and the way that they say it. So listening to how they're saying things, what emotions are coming up,
Mhm.
the setting in which you are, and asking questions is truly important. And if organizations want to lean in and not be performative, they would really truly lean into the trusted messenger, to the folks that they're engaging with, and say, what can we do better? How can we change? And how do you see yourself part of the solution?
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be uncomfortable. So that's why, again, you bring in that third party or someone outside of that realm that can
Yeah.
help facilitate that. Yeah, that's where I would lean, I think, in the needs for
Yeah.
that. Moving forward, I think you truly want to engage and
Right.
learn, listen.
Yeah.
And
No, I love that. Thank you. So, what do you see as the most common barriers that organizations face? So not just in understanding DEI, but in actually acting on it.
I think that one's a fun one. These
Hmm.
is
How
how they
so?
implement it. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
it's
Yeah.
how is it implemented, and being able to let go of
Uh-huh.
holding it always so tight. And I'm more of the vibe of like people be great, and
Yeah.
if there's ideas or initiatives, I think in the corporate world it's a little bit. it's hard because you have to work a lot in the lines. Nonprofit's easier, but both worlds is really
Mm-hmm.
how do you let your team members be great. So if there's someone that's really passionate about something, let's say
Mm-hmm.
they want to start a book club, how do you provide that? If
Yeah.
you're the manager, the director, how do you provide that space for folks to be active in this book club? Maybe they want to read a book around like conflict resilience, right? So set up really clear parameters,
Mm-hmm.
work with them, allow for the time to, if they want to do this during work, that it
Yeah.
actually fits in their working hours, so it's not an extra thing. Or if it is an extra thing, how do you compensate that? And so, again,
Mm-hmm.
providing food, providing the childcare, providing funding, it could look very different depending on the organization, but
Yeah.
I think the struggle that I see ultimately is a lot of folks don't know how to act on these initiatives, and a lot of it
Mm-hmm.
is just really letting the individual that wants to spearhead it or want to try something new be great. And
Yeah.
a lot of that also comes with a lot of follow through. So really getting feedback from folks, I think
Mm-hmm.
at every session or after initiative really helps, and encouraging them to please let us know how can we make this better.
Yeah.
And a lot of that truly comes with building the relationship. So, making sure
Yeah.
that everybody in the room feels like they can say their voice, say their input. And the way that I do it, funny enough, Denise, is at every meeting after I end, I really feel it. I end with these five things, and it's, you got questions, comments, concerns, or hatred. I guess it's four, which I can't
Uh-huh.
forget the fifth one.
Okay.
And, and that's a conflict resilience model that allows you to really voice
Mm-hmm.
all of it, from the comments to the hatred, and it's okay because
Yeah.
you're welcoming it, and it's not necessarily like hatred, like bad. It's more of the constructive criticism or that thing that didn't feel right that allows for folks to, lean in and say, hey, actually, I didn't like this, and how
Yeah.
do we have more of a follow through, and the questions and the comments too that come in. I did this with my nonprofit realm, and it worked
Mm-hmm.
marvelously for me because I leaned in on my board, allowed them to
Okay.
really say, "Hey, we want to do something different. What
Yeah.
would you do? How would you take the the steering wheel and drive this initiative?" And I think that's the other piece that I would say for corporate
Okay.
and nonprofit is how do you let go of that of always having to have your hands on the steering wheel and allow for folks to really
Right.
drive this and let them to really feel as part of this, because then if they feel invested, they're definitely going to want this to be great and wonderful. And how do you
Yeah.
support that growth? And this part is leadership development as a whole, right? Is how do you let other people be in the light and
Yeah.
you supporting them, not you having to constantly be in the light, because that's more of a different hierarchy. Really,
Yeah.
that shared power, that shared space. It's
Yeah.
something that I really try to lean in, and some organizations struggle with that. They're like, how you just let your employees do this and not unsupervised? Like, well, if you build the trust, you don't need to
Yeah.
supervise them. You just let them be great. And if the trust is broken,
Yeah.
then how do you rebuild that, right?
Yeah.
That's a different conversation.
Yeah. No, that's so beautiful because that's something that I strive to do as like a leader myself too. Like I'm more behind the scenes type of leader. I feel like you won't see me like on the megaphone or like outspoken like but I'll be the person behind like other leaders to like help them, build the confidence to do that. So your work sits at the intersection of corporate spaces and community needs. So how do you balance those two worlds, especially when the priorities might not always be aligned with each other?
Mm. That's where I lean into that value of reciprocity, right?
Okay.
Denny's is the what's gonna make this a win-win, and I think as a consultant, you learn really quickly. It's a lot of negotiation and going
Hmm.
back and forth, and I do a lot of phone calls. I think a lot of the stuff can be done in the greater meetings, but we're not really listening to each other sometimes in meetings. We're doing a
Yeah.
lot of the how do we play it? the show horse sort of mentality where it's like I need to show how great I am and how smart
Yeah.
I am. It's like that's cool. And how do we move authentically is the other is beyond past the show horse is really important to me.
Hmm.
So I have a lot of one-on-ones with people and talk, hey, what are I want to really understand what done looks like to both the client and also to the organizations that we are working with.
Okay.
And again, it goes back to that extractive, right? And a lot of organizations or government, again, I'll use this one, can
Hmm.
be really extractive and they're not knowing when they're being extractive just because by nature
Yeah.
and design it's been set up that way, right? A survey could be really extractive
Hmm.
because you're asking people for feedback, you're taking it, and you're the participant. And it's like, now what? You just do
Yeah.
like, how do you make that? How do you build in that reciprocity? So, you fill out the survey, you get this 20% off coupon to a
Hmm.
local store, right? Or you get access to the information or,
Okay.
contact to who's doing this work so you can add that follow up, creating multiple ways so it once again creates that win win. And for
Hmm.
me, it's really understanding from both sides what is that win win, right? So,
Okay.
government can feel like, for me, done would look like we have these many responses and we engage with these number of folks, different backgrounds. We've got some understanding of what the initiative can look like, and then the win
Hmm.
from the other side is that, well, I would actually like to have connections or people that can lead me to funding, or just be
Yeah.
able to see how I can use this in the work that I'm doing currently. And oftentimes, it's just asking those questions that really help folks be vulnerable and be able to understand, you
Okay.
know, this is what would make me feel like this is important and not something that is just an add-on because people are busy.
Yeah.
2025 proved that folks are really busy with the number of things on their mind, whether it's funding,
Yeah.
shortage of staff, people not engaging, right? So it's a nonprofit, and then similarly, it's on the other side, and
Yeah.
government. That's really that common factor. Funny enough, Denise, is the government is also short staff, facing
Okay.
funding shortages,
Right.
and
Right.
people are not engaging. So, how do we come together and
Yeah.
not duplicate efforts, but I'd rather, again, I'm going to use the word again, collaborate on these efforts. So we are moving together and a lot of time finding those commonalities because
Hmm.
you might be working toward the same goal
Okay.
and you don't know it. You just need to have those conversations. And then once you find that commonality, it's like, okay, how do we work together to
Yeah.
push the needle or keep moving in that direction towards that goal, whether it's, reducing housing
Hmm.
disparities, inequities in hiring, or anything that you're moving towards. There's usually a nonprofit with that
Hmm.
mission, that vision, and the city and the government wants to lean into it. So I lean into that collaboration.
Okay.
And again, with that win-win in mind. So it's not
Yeah.
extractive, but really reciprocal.
Yeah. Okay, cool. No, thank you for sharing that. And I don't think you mentioned that you wanted to talk about our shared connection to California. So, what do you think makes the state such a powerful backdrop for conversations about justice and inclusion?
You've been seeing it everywhere,
Hmm.
very unspoken, very openly, which I love.
Yeah.
I've done this work in, I want to say 39 out of the 50 states.
Okay.
I'm hoping to do 50 out of 50. Alaska's a hard one, but I got time as a consultant. And
Uh-huh.
what I love about Californians is the openness and, let's just dive into these topics. I was at
Hmm.
a networking event last week, Denise, and people were really. I love how people were really open about the healthcare crisis and
Okay.
Proposition. Was it Proposition 50, 53?
Hmm.
Recently, that got voted on.
Right. Yeah, I think it was 50.
50. Okay, I don't
Uh-huh.
know. I can't remember the number.
Yeah.
There's a
I
lot of
know there's
numbers in
so
my head right
many.
now, and
Right.
just leaning in because I
Uh-huh.
think in some communities, those are, the topic of politics is very taboo in a way, and it's
Yeah.
you just have those unspoken rules of society. What are
Yeah.
they? It's like politics is one of those, and
Hmm.
people just avoid it like the plague. Uh,
Yeah.
Here, they
Yeah.
lean in, and it's been breath of fresh air, just be
Uh-huh.
able to have this conversation with folks and be able to experience it. And, coming from Wisconsin,
Okay.
which is a red state or purple, depending on the year,
Mm-hmm.
very conservative, I'll say. And
Okay.
folks don't want to have those conversations, or they're feeling like, I got to tiptoe around it because I don't want to make so and so mad.
Yeah.
I personally welcome difference in opinion. I think it's good. It's good to have that discourse and
Mm-hmm.
be able to have an opposing thought in all the work that you do. Because it might actually shed light to something you didn't think about it, or welcome the opportunity to lean into one of my other favorite values, curiosity, right?
Okay.
Because then you can say, hey, tell me more about that, or why do you feel that way, or what,
Yeah.
again, do you have an experience that you could share around this topic that
Mm-hmm.
could help me shed light to it? And I think there's a lot of curiosity here in California that have been really wonderful to
Yeah.
experience. I'm the transplant now. Like I said, my wife grew up in California, lived here in
Mm-hmm.
Berkeley, and moved to Wisconsin. So she was the transplant. Now I'm the
Okay.
transplant here, and it's fun to see the differences and be able to still have those conversations,
Yeah.
uh, not just here, but in different areas. And I lean a lot into that commonality because I can see more. If we have something in common, we can talk and we'll share, and
Yeah.
that's a good way to start building trust with people. If you're looking to engage with different audiences, is look at the common denominator between you and the person that you're in front of.
Yeah.
So that's why I mentioned California, because I
Yeah.
think you're the first podcaster that I'm
Oh,
in the
really?
same
Okay.
first time zone and same state.
Oh, wow.
Maybe same
Okay.
time zone actually. There might be a few
Okay.
it's same state, but it's like, oh, this is fun. So
Yeah.
it makes it easier because some podcasters, when I've done the other shows, have been like, oh, I'm in Africa and it's like midnight. And it's like,
Oh,
whoa, oh my God,
that's funny.
what time is it? It's only like 8 a.m. over here, so it's fun new. So yeah.
No, that's cool. No, I love, doing the work in California too. So as I mentioned, I lived in the Bay Area for quite some time and I really love just like the thriving nonprofit sector. And yeah, what I
Mm.
wanted to do is like bring that knowledge down to, where I'm living because I feel like there's a lot of needs in my community, but not as many resources as the Bay Area would offer. So I don't know. I would love to develop a nonprofit of my own too sometime. But yeah, I just love the Bay Area with like the activism, nonprofit sector. It's just so rich in its history and yeah, just culture.
Oh yeah, I've been reading a lot about the culture and the history, and
Yeah.
it's wonderful and very different from, like, growing up in Wisconsin and seeing that
Yeah.
culture. I think the diversity is really embedded here, and
Hmm.
you need to thrive into it. You need to lean into diversity to thrive.
Yeah.
Uh, it's not the case in other places, but
Uh-huh.
I think, again, it's something that we learn is if
Okay.
diversity does withstand the test of time, and
Yeah.
if you're already
Yeah.
embedding that from the beginning, you're more likely to, you know, get through the hard times or the challenges that we're
Yeah.
seeing it in real time now with those organizations that continue to invest in diversity, equity, inclusion, right?
Hmm.
They tend to be thriving. Contrast those that don't.
Okay.
Uh, you might face backlash, or you might be. I think about Target a lot in the last year and
Yeah.
how they lost profits because it's really important to people and they want to see themselves reflected. And if you're
Hmm.
not creating an environment that's reflective of the audience, they're just
Yeah.
going to turn away. Uh,
Yeah.
I do hope that you do start a nonprofit. I think it's great work. And if you ever need help, let me know. I'll be
I
happy
might
to.
take you up on that offer.
Please
Seriously.
do.
Yeah.
That'll be
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of folks that try the nonprofit realm, and you just need
Yeah.
some guidance
Okay.
or a thought partner, right? Because
Okay.
they try community is not built within four walls. It's done with community.
Yeah.
So a lot of
Mm.
my work is like, how do you bring community to be so you can build a movement around the cause. It's
Yeah.
really important, not the cause and then the movement, right? Uh,
Yeah. No, thank you so much for that offer. I'd love to, continue talking with you offline about that because I am really serious about this. And, something that I want to do with this podcast is give people like tangible actions that we can take to like make the like a more just world that we want to see. So for organizations wanting to authentically show up for underrepresented communities, where would you say that they should begin?
Oh, that's a great question, Dennis. I would say show up.
Okay.
Um, and don't show up just to um, get something. Show up just to be part of something,
Mm-hmm.
whether it's a movement or a group that you're really curious. The wonderful part about the realm that we live in right now, especially with technology, is that you can see what organizations are up to. And I
Yeah.
always invite, you know, especially with the government, the government sector is trying to build a new relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Attend events, but attend three before you make the ask. So
Okay.
that way it's not like, I've seen this numerous times, Dennis, where I'm showing up to an event. Oh, it's my first time. I'm trying to talk to the CEO to see if we can work on Project X.
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's extractiveness and practices. But showing up means, you're investing in their events, you're buying tickets, you're meeting the people, right? You're engaging with the leadership, with the audience that the leadership is engaged with. And I say three times because that way you can build a repetition. You're not
Mm-hmm.
just someone that's showing up, the one hit wonder that shows up once and
Yeah.
never gets seen again. But be engaged, listen to the needs, listen to the conversations folks are having, and how do you see yourself being part of the solution, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that carries across sectors, right? Whether you're in the corporate or nonprofit, we're
Mm-hmm.
trying to build a collaboration. It's not built by, you and I are having a dissimilarity, and
Yeah.
let's try. It's from repetition, from meeting multiple times, from having lunch, having dinner together,
Yeah.
or doing these experiences that build the trust, and being able to say, oh yeah, I remember you from the last event.
Yeah.
I think sometimes it's really easy to get lost, and especially in the Bay Area here, out here,
Mm-hmm.
there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
I've been really intentional around like which groups or organization I'm engaging with, because I want to build that trust, build
Mm-hmm.
um, that reciprocity, and that reputation of who I am before I move on to the next one. And some folks, I see that they just jump around and are everywhere, and it's like, well, that's great too, but how are you
Yeah.
truly building authentic relationships, and
Mm-hmm.
showing up more than once? Because it's not sustainable to be at 13 different places at once,
Yeah.
but it might be more sustainable to be at two or three organizations, and
Yeah.
eventually you build up more. So yeah, that's where I encourage folks to show up, be curious, spark
Yeah.
conversation, and if you're coming in with an ask,
Mm-hmm.
show up three times before you do the ask. That way you really build that
Yeah.
presence.
No, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. And I'd love for you to speak directly to my listeners as well. So if listeners took one action after hearing this conversation, what is one small but meaningful step towards justice or cross-cultural understanding? And, what would you want that step to be?
Yeah, I'll say listen.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, listen, listen really is the key one. How are you listening, and how can you be a better listener? Ask yourself those two questions. I think it will be a really meaningful action that you can take in
Yeah.
2026, and really work on that listening intelligence that we all carry, and learn more about your listening
Mm-hmm.
style, because it's something that is new for me. I was like, oh, I didn't think about it this way. But once you
Yeah.
start realizing, your own listening patterns, and
Mm-hmm.
how you listen, and how someone else's listening patterns different,
Yeah.
it opens a whole different world around how you understand people, and how you understand work, and how the work is being done. Because some people are very action oriented, and they're only listening for certain keywords, and some people are
Mm-hmm.
very complex listeners, and there's a whole world in between. So
Yeah.
listen, 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 and if you want to take it a step further, there is a listening intelligence sort of course that you can take online, and it's really
Oh,
like,
cool.
10 questions, not too
How could
hard.
people find that if they're interested in that? That's really
uh,
interesting.
yeah, you can send me an email,
Uh-huh.
or I think you could Google listening intelligence
Okay.
assessment, But yeah, I
Okay.
have happy to connect you with the people that are doing that work.
Yeah, no, thank you so much. That actually leads me to the last point that I wanted to talk about. But thank you so much for your time. I really had a wonderful conversation with you. I think what you're doing is really important work. I hope that this message gets spread as far as possible. But just
Thank you.
lastly, how can people find you if they would like to connect with you?
Oh yeah, Dennis. I'm very active on LinkedIn.
Okay.
Love the platform just because it allows for people to really be engaged,
Yeah.
talk about, uh, different topics. So give me a follow, Mathias Lemos Castillo.
Hmm.
My website is consultant.mlc.com, but love to connect with people and,
Yeah.
learn and see all the different cool stuff people are doing. It's a fun
Yeah.
platform for just seeing the innovation, the catalyst, and, bringing new ideas, I think.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay, no, that's wonderful. Yeah, well, thank you again for your time. I wish you all the best with your work moving forward, and I hope you have a good rest of your day and a wonderful holiday season.
You too. Thank you so much, Dennis, for having me. And for the listeners for taking the time. I hope you found this
Yeah,
very insightful. So, yeah, we'd love
yeah,
to hear, what you took away from this.
yeah, definitely. Okay, well, hope to talk with you again soon. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for being here and tuning in to Voices That Propel Us, stories of justice, action, and community. Your presence in this movement matters. If today's conversation moved you, share it, talk about it, and keep the work going. Together, we're not just imagining change, we're making it. Until next time, stay bold, stay grounded, and stay in the fight.
Every time I feel so mad and sad and bad, I say to myself, relax, lean back, it's a brand new day. And every time I feel so down that a frown